Hi, today we're going to talk about comparing equal things. So, in English, when we have two or more things that are equal, we use phrases like as much as many as. So, for example, we'd say Claire has as many dogs as Matthew. In Spanish, it's going to be a little different. So, when you're comparing an adjective or an adverb, we're going to use this formula. Remember, an adjective is a word that modifies a noun. So, happy, sad, those are some adjectives. Adverbs are words that modify actions. In English, they usually end in ly. So, quickly, slowly. In Spanish, you can recognize adverbs because they usually end in mente. So, if you want to say that Carolina is as tall as Jorge, like we have here, you would say Carolina es tan alta como Jorge, just like our little equation, as I like to call them, shows us. So you're always going to have a subject. Make sure your verb matches your subject. Your word is always going to be tan. You're never going to change that. Then you'll have whatever adjective or adverb you need. Make sure that matches your subject. That's why we said alta and not alto, because Carolina is our subject. She's a girl, so we use alta. And then you finish off with the other person. Another example is if you want to use an adverb and want to say Carolina runs as quickly as Jorge. We have it right here. Carolina corre tan rápidamente como Jorge. Comparing nouns is a little different. Here's our equation. Once again, you're going to start with your subject and verb. Again, make sure they match. Then here's where it gets different. You got to choose one of these words. So, what do you think you have to decide to figure out which word to use? Well, guess what? It says right here. That word has to match your noun, not your subject. And then you got to write como, no matter what, and then the other person. So, if we're talking about how many dogs Clara has and how many dogs Mateo has, say Clara tiene, those match. But then we're going to say tantos to match perros. So since perros is masculine and plural, we know that because it ends in os, we want tantos. And then we add como Mateo. Okay, the last comparison we're going to talk about is comparing time spent or how often someone does something. And this is the shortest one. Again, just like the other two, you got to have your subject and your verb. Make sure they match. Then you'll use the phrase tanto como. It does not matter who the subject is or who the person is. It's always going to be tanto como. Do not change it. That's why it doesn't have parentheses around it. So if we want to say Carolina studies as much as Jorge or as often as Jorge, that'd be Carolina estudia tanto como Jorge. Now your next question should be, great, wonderful. We got these formulas. How do I know which one to use? Well, I try to make it simple. I have 3 questions you ask yourself. First, ask, are you comparing how often something is done? If you are, use the equation we just saw. If you're comparing how many things there are, whether they just exist or maybe you're talking about how many cookies you eat, then you're going to go up to B. Here it is, right here. And then finally, if you answer no to 1 and 2, then use A. So let's do some practice. We'll do the first one together. So we're just taking these words as they are. Do not change their order, but we need to add some stuff to make it a sentence that really makes sense. So Talia and Danya were some of my students in the past. They're both girls. So I'm going to type that, Talia y Danya. So I'm trying to say something about them being as smart as Elisa. Okay, well, we want to use are. They are as smart. Okay, we got to be. So think for a moment, should we use ser or estar when we're talking about smart? Well, we should probably use ser since this is a, oh shoot, I forgot the word, not condition. It's a characteristic of what they are. So remember, doctor, that C in doctor is for characteristics. So Talia y Danya son. Hey, let's pause. Are we comparing how often something is done? No, not when we're talking about how smart they are. Are we talking about how many things there are? No, we're not. So let's look back at A for a moment. We got our subject and verb. Okay, now we need the word tan before we have the adjective. So let's go back. Tan. Okay, our adjective is inteligente. Do we need to change that to match Talia y Danya? Yeah, we definitely need to change that because inteligente is used when you're talking about one person, but we got two people right here. So let's add an S to make that match. Okay, let's go back to Formula A and see what we're missing now. Okay, we got the tan, we got the adjective. Now we need como in the other person. All right, so como Elisa. That's all you need. That's a full logical sentence. Talia y Danya son tan inteligentes como Elisa. Try to do the second one on your own. So pause this video and see if you can figure out this one on your own. I'll give you a hint. Remember what I said about words that end in mente, what kind of word that usually is. Okay, now that you've tried it, let's see how you did. So we're going to still write abril. We still need a verb. So I take hablar, but we need to change it to match abril. We end up with habla. Okay, we asked ourselves these questions. Are we comparing how often something is done? We're talking about April talking. This means clearly. So you should have realized I said earlier, if a word ends in mente in Spanish, it probably ends in ly in English. So you recognized, that's an adverb. And this kind of looks like the word clear. So talking about something, April talks clearly Jorge. So since I just kind of gave away, so no, we're not comparing how often something's done. Are we talking about how many? No. So let's look at A. That's where we need what we need to use for adverbs. So it's going to be a lot like that one, the one we just did. So we need to add tan before we have the adverb. So we have tan. The adverb is claramente. Now, do adverbs change to match the subject? No, they don't. Adverbs only have one form. Claramente is claramente is claramente. Do not change that. Okay, and then I'm going to cheat. Since I said that these two are going to be really similar, let's see what we did in number one. Okay, we have the verb, we have tan, we have another word, then we got to have como. No matter what, it's going to be como. So we write como and add our name, Jorge. Okay, try number three. So pause the video, try number three, and I give you a hint. We're talking about how often. Okay, let's see how you did. So we're going to write David. We want to change jugar to match David. Remember, it has a spelling change, so we want juega, voleibol. So plays volleyball. How often? So are we comparing how often something's done? Yes, I gave you that hint. So let's look at C. So we got our subject and verb. I'm going to zoom out a little. Subject and verb, awesome. Then we need the phrase tanto como. Tanto como. And then we just need the other person. Mercedes. Done. Super easy. By the way, Mercedes is a name. It's not just a car. And it's typically a girl's name. Try number four. Pause this video and try it. And I give you a hint. We're talking about a number. Let's see how we did. So we're going to copy the names. Okay, we got to make the verb match our subject since it's Luna y yo. Whoops, I have a typo. Y yo. Let's change that to comemos. Let's pause. Are we comparing how often something's done? No, we're comparing the number. So that's comparing how many things we eat. Let's look at B. So we got subject verb, now we got to pick tanto or tanta or tantos or tantas. It needs to match the noun, not the subject. Let's go back. Okay, we're talking about naranjas. So, do you think it'd be tanto, tanta, tantos, or tantas? Well, naranjas is probably feminine and plural. So let's pick the feminine and plural one. Tantas, naranjas. Okay, let's go back and see what comes after that. Okay, no matter what, we got to have the word como and then the person. So let's finish this off. Como. Oops, I made a typo. I got to change my settings. There we go. Fatima. There we go. And if you don't know how to do accent marks on your Chromebook or whatnot and you want to find out, you can just ask me. I'll show you. It's actually very easy. And another side note, Fatima, again, is another typical female name. Okay, try number 5. Again, I give you a hint that we're talking about how often. Let's see how you did. So, tu. Want to change beber to match tu. Bebes. Okay, let's see. So we're comparing how often. So let's look at C. Tu bebes. We got to write the word tanto como, or the phrase tanto como, and then just the person. So this is a short one. Tu bebes leche. That's where we go. So when in doubt, keep your next word next to your verb. Tu bebes leche, and we said tanto como Jesus. Easy. Ooh, this one doesn't have a hint. Okay. Ustedes, viejo, yo. So you might want to take a moment and ask yourself, what does viejo mean? That should help you out. So try this one out. Okay, now that you've tried it out, let's see how we did. Oh, I'm going to end up on the next page. Okay, we have ustedes. Hopefully you realize viejo means old. So we're saying something about you, old, and myself. Well, we're probably trying to say you all are as old as I am. So we need a form of are. So in Spanish, that'd be either ser or estar. So what do you think we would use with viejo, ser or estar? Well, being old, I would say, is a characteristic, not a condition. So we're going to use a form of ser, specifically son. Okay, let's go back and ask our questions. Okay, you all are as old as I am. Are you comparing how often something's done? Nope. Are you comparing how many things there are? Nope. So let's look at the first formula. So we got our subject and verb. Our next word is tan, and then we got to have the adjective. All right, so let's type tan. And then our adjective is viejo. Take a moment, always check, does your adjective match your subject? Does viejo match ustedes? Nope, we got to add an S. And if it happens to be that the people I'm talking to, the ustedes, are all girls, then it'd be viejas. But in all likelihood, there's going to be at least one male, so it's viejos. Okay, let's go back to our formula, A. Tan viejos. Okay, now we just have to add como in the person. Como, and the second person is yo. Done. If you have any questions, if you feel really confused, just raise your hand, let me know. If you're not in class, shoot me an email. In case you don't remember, my email address is this. It should pop up when you're using your school email.